Hi everyone, welcome to my review of Tomorrow Never Dies from 1997, directed of course by Roger Spottiswoode, and yes, the 18th Bond film in the franchise. So welcome back once again. Bond is back. Yes, he is, certainly. Once again, we have a Pierce Brosnan film here, the second entry of course for Piers, and yeah, still be spoilers. It kind of goes without saying at this point that these Bond re-reviews will have spoilers in the kind of discussions here or review if you want. And yeah, if you've not seen the film, I just recommend simply watching the film first and then coming back because I wouldn't want to kind of the last thing I want to do is kind of spoil any plot details, etc. So yes, that's kind of a recommendation there. And then we can kind of talk if you want. Options always there for the comment section. Just kind of open things up and we can talk about this film. So yes, with that said, here we are once again, and it's been a few weeks, more than 2 weeks actually. I must apologise for that. I said I'd have this review up, sooner than what's kind of panned out in that sense. But what I wanted to do actually, after watching this film, I thought, I've got to rewatch The World Is Not Enough first, and then I can kind of talk about these films and maybe quick succession. I might have a review of that film up within a week from this upload. So yes, I just wanted to kind of do that, and very, very interesting Bond. Of course, the first David Arnold Bond as well, and that is something, of course. The great David Arnold, and he's to date, of course, worked on 5 Bond films. This is the first, his kind of his kind of career, regarding Bond, and what an outing it is for him. This score to this film. Really is quite remarkable, and we'll get to that, of course. But yes, very interesting Bond here, actually, and very, I guess it kind of goes without saying, these Bond films, of course, really going forward, and including GoldenEye, of course, they are divisive, and that's just kind of, yes, we don't really need to talk about that. It kind of goes without saying, they are very, very divisive, but yes. Very interesting relationship I have with this film. I watched it many, many times, as a kid, of course, and yes, I had the PS1 game as well. Let me know in the comments if you've played that before. I have great memories of that. The funny thing is, I never had a memory card actually for my PS1. It's a second-hand PS1 actually, and I never, was allowed a memory card. So I never got to save my games. Weirdly enough, but I remember kind of going through this film, this game, of course, and never completing it. And just great memories. Kind of playing the game, watching the film many, many times, seeing the characters, of course, in the game, and just great times, of course. And it's a very, it's a very rewatchable Bond film, as a kid, and just loving, of course, the action and. Piers, once again, I think, personally for me, he's a great, great Bond. He really, he was a great, great Bond. I do think so. Just really, charming, ruthless. Just so interesting. In the way he kind of approached this character, and kind of a combination, of course, as I've said, of different classic, Bond performances, and just bringing his own kind of thing to this role. And I think. Yes, it's very, very interesting because, despite loving this film as a kid, I just, the first time I actually kind of went through the entire series, as I said, a few years ago now, I kind of went through the entire series in order. I'd never done that before, weirdly enough. I'd always just kind of watched them out of order, and yes, there was a couple I'd never seen, but when I got to this film, I kind of thought, I don't love this film actually, and that was very, very kind of surprising to me, and I think we'll put it down to a couple of things. I've said this before, mainly a couple of years ago. There's times I wasn't in a great mood, and I've watched a few films, and not responding to them, maybe in a completely positive way, or just not as much as maybe I thought I would have done, and then of course. Maybe just simply a couple of months afterwards, I've rewatched said film and loved it. So it's happened with a few films, of course. I've said that, on the channel, and apologies for that. It's just the way sometimes it did happen back then. Just a handful of films, really. Another thing is, I could say that. looking on my film log, you know, when I watched this film again, it's actually the day after rewatching Goldeneye, which really just, you know, I was kind of, I guess I was kind of riding the high, you know, of that film. And of course, yes, I do prefer Goldeneye. I've said that before, of course. That's my favourite Brosnan film. But yes, I guess maybe I just kind of, you know, I was kind of disappointed with this film in comparison to Goldeneye, and that's a few things that I'll put that down to, because this time round, once again, you know, loving the film, absolutely love this one. I think, you know, it's very, you know, it's a very different Bond, of course. There are, of course, criticisms of, you know, of this film, and I guess, you know, it's definitely, you know, in many regards, it is a modern Bond, you know, in that sense. But I would argue there's definitely, you know, classic elements to this film as well, and including the score. You know, I think David Arnold actually brings something that's kind of reminiscent of the classic John Barry scores. You know, the '60s kind of. Yes, melodies in particular, kind of from Rush of Love. It's actually got a couple of, you know, actual melodic motifs in there from that film, and of course, yes, just some of these, you know, kind of bombastic, you know, really, you know, kind of loud, you know, instruments. Focus on that, you know, in this score, and I think just really wonderful to kind of see him kind of going back to that. It's not, I wouldn't say it's like maybe his latest scores, you know, for example, Moonraker or anything like this. It's very much kind of, you know, his '60s scores, maybe a little bit of the score, of course, to Living Daylights. I would say that, you know, as well, kind of the mixing, you know, of actual existing Bond music with kind of its, you know, own unique thing for the film. So it's very reminiscent of them, you know, kind of scores, I feel, but also very, very different, and just kind of its own thing as well. David Arnold, you know, brought something really special to this film, and I think the score to this, wow, really is quite something, you know, actually. And of course, we have the opening scene, and you know, we have you know, very, very you know, highly enjoyable moments here. At first, you have Bond sneaking around. I love this so much, and you know, just seeing, you know, MI6, you know, kind of communicating with Bond and in on the action in that sense in the opening scene really is, you know, a treat. And I think actually, you know, in general, you know, I love the way in which Brosnan films, they kind of treat MI6, actually, you know, kind of members, of course, you know, including Tanner and M, of course, as well. She really is so great, you know, in these films. These first three kind of Brosnan films really, you know, just develop these individuals, of course, and just seeing them as a team is really highly charming. It really, really is, and I love the way in which M is portrayed once again. Of course, the first half of this film, you know, kind of has a lot of MI6, kind of dialogue, of course, between, you know, Bond and of course the rest of MI6, and you know, just seeing, for example, the scene in the car as well. You know, it's so great. Of course, just, you know, some really funny lines there. You know, and this is a really funny film actually. We'll get to kind of comedy very soon, but seeing this opening scene, you know, I just absolutely loved it. Once again, I think just a great kind of blend of, you know, kind of you know, tension here, the stealth elements. Then you've got, of course, the kind of the humour of Bond that Brosnan brings to the role, and then of course you've got these epic moments, thrilling moments, of course, all kind of ending, you know, culminating in that, you know, quite an epic, you know, takeoff. And you know, Brosnan's face there is priceless. You know, reaction there when he kind of takes off. It's just really hilarious, but epic, of course. And the score here, you know, really, it gets the blood pumping. It really does. You know, I think the epic score here, you know, White Knight, the kind of track there, you know, just really is quite mind blowing. You know, actually, and it's got, of course, you know, the kind of the main theme of the film is Sheryl Crow performing, of course, the title theme, but you have got the ending, you know, song here, "Surrender," performed by K.D. Lang, and that song, of course, the different melodies in that appear throughout the film and you know, in its score. So, you know, it's just great kind of moments within that song that are kind of used in this film, just give me chills. And you know, again, you know, I'll address this. You know, I do think "Surrender," you know, it would have been, you know, I would have preferred it to be, yes, the opening title, you know, theme, of course, but you know, it doesn't matter too much. You know, it's fine. It's in the score, of course, throughout the film, and of course, you know, it ends in such an epic way. You know, hearing that theme, of course, again, it gets you kind of it's an epic moment, regardless. Yes, I would have preferred it to be in the opening titles, but you know, you can't really change the film, of course. But yes, you know, what a great song that is, of course. You know, really, wow, that is a legendary song, and the vocals to that, you know, it really is reminiscent of, you know, Shirley Bassey, you know, kind of vocals actually, for particularly Goldfinger, you know, actually. So yeah, great song there, and just the score throughout the film. You've got these kind of beautiful romantic moments in the score. You've got the epic, bombastic pieces, and just reflecting these kind of films. I think David Arnold, you know, really knew how to kind of relate different moments within, you know, a score of said film to a particular rendition or kind of portrayal, of course, of you know, of Bond. You know, with Brosnan, of course, and then Craig. You know, it related to the characters, related to the feeling, of course, the atmosphere of the films, and you know, this one is no exception. This is one of his best scores, in my opinion. I think you know, there is a better one. You know, I feel we'll get to that. You could probably guess what, you know, my favourite David Arnold score is. But you know, this one is so great, and I think the way it's used in the action, you know, it's just, it gets me kind of geeking out. You know, I think, you know, as I've said before, hearing the actual Bond theme, you know, maybe just simply a rendition, you know, of the classic Bond theme used in an action scene in a Bond film is kind of something I just have to you know, tick off in that sense. You know, if I had a checklist for, you know, what should be in a Bond film, you know, most of the time, there's a couple of exceptions, of course, with, again, a film we'll get to, you know, but yes, mainly, you know, there is something about seeing, you know, film, Bond film, and hearing that Bond theme and using, you know, that in the action, that's kind of necessary for me, and I think this one actually could be the Bond film. Well, actually, yes, you could have. You could say it's kind of the one that's got the most use, you know, of the Bond theme. So it's great to kind of see, and some would say that's maybe you know, playing up too much to it. But I think, you know, really, you know, this film really establishes a particular tone, and you know, it's definitely, you know, a very comedic Bond, and one that's definitely, you know, kind of it's not exactly subtle in places. Other places it is, but I think, you know, the use of this, you know, just works for me. You know, really wonderfully, and you know, I really can't complain about that. I just love, yes, the way the score is, you know, kind of handled in this, and the action in this film. Of course, this film, you know, is definitely more of a kind of you know, an energetic action film than, say, The World Is Not Enough, or even Goldeneye in many regards, because yes, it really does kind of go all out in that sense in the set pieces, many action scenes, and I think the drama in this film, the character working, you could say is secondary, although it's still definitely there and very compelling. But I think this is more of a kind of energetic, you know, kind of perhaps campy, you know, Bond action film adventure, and I think The World Is Not Enough. It's definitely more kind of doing things with the characters, you know, before you know, kind of the set pieces in that sense, and we'll get to that, of course. But you know, this film, I think the first half of this film, the first hour of this, really is just so great. This is actually legendary in my opinion. I loved the entire you know, first hour in particular. Wow, you know, around 5 minutes actually. Just non-stop, you know, just satisfying moments, atmosphere, you know, class, style. You know, I think there's some slights here and there in the first half. I think the editing is very interesting to this film. You know, at times with the actual dialogue scenes, there are some, you know, interesting moments. You know, don't quite work you know, perfectly. I think the flow is sometimes, you know, it's fine for me. You know, you know, I guess it'd be more an issue for other people. But I think the flow is definitely slightly flawed. You know, in my opinion, the way it kind of is put together. There is some weird, couple of weird slow motion uses as well. But mainly the first half, yes, really is just a delightful Bond. It's kind of classic Bond for me, and I think just, you know, seeing these action set pieces as well. You know, of course, you have the kind of the studio room, you know, fist fights and all this going on, of course, and you know, the kind of first appearance, you know, of Carver, our villain of the film, of course, Elliot Carver, played by Jonathan Pryce, and very interesting performance here. I think actually one of the things as well that's grown on me, you know, on this watch, is finally Jonathan Pryce and his kind of character that he plays, of course, of Carver. You know, this villain, is very, very different, you know, to different, you know, Bond villains of the past. And you know, at the same time, I actually love, you know, I've kind of realised how, you know, it is kind of this, you know, big performance in many regards. And I do love actually the way in which it's kind of, in many regards, you know, especially towards the end of the film, the villain of this is very pathetic. You know, actually, kind of campy, and you know, he is this, you know, maddening kind of character. And I think actually I enjoyed, you know, this time round so much more than I ever had done in the past. You know, the kind of campy nature of this character, but at the same time, you know, very very menacing as well at first, and his plans. There's, you know, it's very very interesting to see, and I think, you know, of course, the main plan, you know, of this character, you know, is to kind of create World War III in many regards, and then of course he can kind of gain, you know, kind of coverage, global coverage, of course, through the media. And of course, he manipulates different things in this film. As one of his, you know, his kind of lines is, "There's no news like bad news," and it's very very interesting in this. That's kind of his weapon in the film. You know, his kind of his plan is, you know, is using the media or words in that sense, rather than you know, other methods, you know, past Bond films. So it's very very interesting, and actually it's grown on me. It really really has, and actually it's not entirely you know, unbelievable in many regards. You know, it's definitely very, you know, very interesting, of course, and you know, just seeing, you know, how this begins, and just kind of seeing the kind of introduction of Carver. You know, it's really, really compelling. Actually, I think Jonathan Pryce is very, very charming in this film. It's not exactly a character who, you know, is physically, you know, menacing. This is not someone who I am, you know, kind of scared of. For example, like. You know, or is kind of frightening, like Jaws, perhaps. I guess he's a henchman, but you know, that kind of thing. Or you know, many other villains, you know, in the franchise, they're more physically kind of intimidating, perhaps. You know, Elliot Carver, I guess, is kind of, you could say, kind of weak in many regards. That's kind of his character traits, and he's very sneaky, very sly. He gets other people to kind of do his dirty work in that sense, of course. And yes, just seeing his plans, though, you know, his kind of first, you know, his kind of first scenes of dialogue, is actually very, very compelling, of course. And seeing Bond, you know, first you know, introduced to Carver through his, as well, his wife, Carver's wife, Paris, of course, you know, is very, very interesting in this film. And I think just, I think Paris is really a very, very interesting character, actually. And I guess that, you know, seeing, you know, when she goes out of the film, I guess it's not as compelling in the sense of, you know, romantic interests, you could say. I think Michelle Yeoh, you know, is kind of, she's fine, you know, as Llewelyn, you know, she's essentially the Bond girl of the film, but I think, you know, really it's Paris Carver, you know, in terms of love interests in this film that really offers this, you know, in my opinion anyway, this compelling, kind of you know, really felt relationship. And I love the kind of exposition in this, you know, the way in which they are you know, past lovers, of course, and they have this kind of history, and it's really really felt. I feel the performances here, you know, are great, and just seeing the interactions in this film. I think really the Brosnan era as well is really focusing, you know, these first three anyway, you know, on interactions, really atmospheric, subtle, you know, moments in these films, and just what they're kind of doing, you know, in regards to MI6 as well, is really really interesting, actually, and very very different. You know, I really admire the kind of the character working, the world building, you know, in these films, and I think just really, this one finds in the first hour, you know, kind of almost, you know, at times there are particular sequences where it's kind of flawless in its handling of, or its balance of, you know, action, drama, comedy, of course, and just creating, you know, this world that's specific to this film, but also kind of continuing, of course, and feeling like an existing Bond, you know, in this actual, you know, this Bond universe. It's very very Bondying, this film, you know, in its first half, and yes, in that sense, it's kind of, you know, real. Kind of classic Bond, you know, at first. What I love about this film as well is the use of gadgets. Yes, really, really something else. And I think, you know, just seeing, particularly, you know, the phone, you know, in this film, of course, the use of that, you know, the different things that it can do, you know, that he's given, of course. And, you know, in this film, it's very interesting because he kind of uses, you know, these gadgets in ways in which he's not maybe been instructed to, you know, in a way. And I think seeing, for example, him using the phone in a variety of different ways to kind of, just using his initiative, of course, and actually, ironically, of course, going against Q's initial outline, of course, of different gadgets, but to see him using his own, instincts to create, ways around or through or out of different situations is so satisfying and so kind of, Bond going against something as well, and actually coming out on top, of course. And yes, just seeing, the way he used the phone, of course, just seeing, yes, the car, of course. We cannot talk about this film without mentioning the remote control car, and I think just seeing, first of all, one of my favourite Q moments of all time actually is seeing him and Q kind of. Testing out in that sense the car in the kind of the airport there, and just seeing him driving that around there, the Bond theme once again kicking in, and just seeing that moment is really, really delightful, so satisfying, and so charming, of course. And we must say this is the penultimate performance, of course, of Desmond Llewelyn, as Q. So very, very sad. Of course, I have now seen, as of recording this, once again, The World Is Not Enough, which is the final performance, of Desmond. So, of course, we have moments in that film which we'll talk about. But even in this film, I think there's definitely something about it that's very, very kind of touching, and I think Piers has a great, as I've said, chemistry with these kind of existing actors, particularly, of course, Desmond Llewelyn, and I think just seeing these guys together, kind of the banter between them, the chemistry, is so lovely actually to see, and yes, just seeing that moment there, and the Bond theme kicking in there, and it really is great, and just yes, the car chase, we must say, we can't kind of talk about this film without kind of mentioning the actual car park, the multi-story car park kind of chase scene there, of course, and seeing that once again, it really is just such a legendary kind of sequence in Bond, and you've got kind of the one-liners there. You've got the kind of reactions, the kind of humour, the excitement, in Bond's face. Pierce Brosnan really giving such a great performance, in these first three Bond films that he was in, of course. Just this film here, wow, seeing these reactions, it really makes the scene, and just seeing how he gets out of the different scenarios here. It's so epic. It's so kind of layered, this sequence, the way that the kind of score is used, once again, is so epic, and just so, this film really, its first half is so operatic, really is something quite special, actually, and yes, just seeing this kind of this kind of tense, humorous, thrilling sequence, ending in that kind of driving off, of course, of the top of the car park there, really is something else, and just the way in which all these sequences kind of strung together, I feel the editing, in terms of the action, is mostly quite flawless in this film. It's just mainly a few things with the editing, some of the kind of dialogue scenes, that's maybe there's some slights there, but again, it doesn't really bother me too much. As a Bond fan, it's nothing that kind of ruins the film. No, but I think there is some slights that I kind of bring up, but in a general sense. But I think the cinematography to this, it's very, very lovely actually. Seeing particularly the use of blue in the film, the cool blues, and I think just very, very vibrant as well. In general, I think the colours in the film there, I just love the way in which some of the kind of locations are captured as well, and seeing, of course, this was filmed a variety of different locations, Thailand, Mexico, etc. Actually, in Thailand, in regards to that, one of the same kind of areas that was used, to film, of course, The Man with the Golden Gun was actually used in this film. It's very, very kind of iconic there in the second half of the film, of course, when they're on the boats there, and just seeing that, it's very, very nice, kind of little nod there, and it's a nice bit of trivia, I guess. But yes, just wonderful locations at times, and I think just seeing different sets, of course. It's very, very interesting sets, as well. The submarine at the end of the film is actually more compelling, and kind of interesting than I first thought. And we'll get to the kind of second half of the film. Now I think definitely, not as good for me. This is why it's not one of my, I guess it's not one of my favourite Bond films, but I do love the film. But I think the second half, it does decline, slightly, gradually, in that sense. I think the last act, once again, kind of picks things up. But I think the first sort of, the moments after that first hour or so, when of course Bond, the change of location there, very abrupt. But you see, of course, Jodon Baker back again as Wade, and I was kind of, I must say, I was disappointed in the use of that character. Just kind of there, I guess, just kind of appears, and it's not, kind of as memorable, anywhere near as memorable as, of course, GoldenEye. I guess they could have done more with the character, I feel, personally. But yeah, I'm just seeing, different moments, the motorcycle chase as well. I think that's the only action scene really that I don't really love in the film, and I think just seeing these different scenes around that for around about 15-20 minutes or so, this is when it's kind of it lacks something. It really lacks, and I can't quite put my finger on it, but it doesn't quite feel like the Bond film that it was, in a sense of just feeling, the atmosphere, the kind of the style, and just the charm of a Bond film. I think it's something lost, in the kind of in the equation there. I think it just feels like an action film in that sense, and nothing wrong with just it being that. But I think really Bond films, they have to be Bond action moments, and I think this is just the only occasion really where the action in the film just feels like a bit generic, a bit bland really for me. There's some thrilling moments. Again, you've got the Bond theme, but really in that kind of motorcycle chase, I think the Bond theme and seeing Pierce Brosnan, is the only kind of thing that really allows it to kind of appear as a Bond film. But really, it picks up once again. I think I won't dwell on that kind of slight. That's just kind of a phase of the film that I'm not as big on, because it doesn't really pick up again in the kind of final act, or half an hour or so of the film. And once again, you see, of course, Elliot Carver, and you do see kind of appearances of MI6 members as well, and seeing, of course, Judi Dench once again, as M, in the kind of final scenes of the film is once again satisfying. But I think in general the second half is nowhere near as good for me. There's something that's just not as kind of balanced, and I think seeing the kind of MI6 agents in the first half of the film, especially the first act, it really is so kind of wonderful to see, and it's kind of this me geeking out, of course, and just loving the interactions, the kind of the different moments, of course, that's so subtle, I feel, and just so interesting, so compelling, and kind of investing. But of course, there is a kind of a lack of character work slightly in the second half. Of course, while Lynn, is definitely a character who's kind of along for the ride. She kind of comes into it, in the second half a bit more, although she's introduced, of course, very early on, really. But I think she's definitely a character who could have done with more character work. I think she definitely gives a good performance in Michelle Yeoh, but I think she does some really good stunt work here, really impressive. But I think just in the sense of writing, I think she could have been given more material to kind of work with here. I guess just not a character who is given much backstory really, and I think the interactions, the chemistry, is not quite there for me, just for my liking. I think it would have been great to see her giving more of a kind of yes, more of a backstory, and more of a kind of a presence, and just more of a character. I think it's a shame, because I think there are moments, of course, which I really enjoy with her character, but really it's kind of more surface level, and I think she could have been written better, in my opinion, and of course the chemistry. Therefore, it would have been more. I guess more could have happened, with the interactions if the script had allowed it, in a sense. But really, yes, she's kind of used as just an action character, which is fine, But I guess I would have liked more, in the vein of maybe Paris. Of course, Teri Hatcher, she's great in the film, in my opinion, but. It's because as well, she was given much more to kind of do, and it's just kind of a slight of the film, and just seeing some of the second half, it's just not quite as balanced, not quite as compelling at all. It doesn't have that magic that the first half had, really, and the kind of blend of drama, humor, of course, just effortless, kind of one-liners, moments from peers, seeing this all, the action, the blend here, and the kind of balance. This is what really made the first half, and kind of diminished it, kind of in the second half. But overall, it definitely picks up in the last kind of act of the film, and really comes to a really epic conclusion. But yes, there's so many different interactions in this film as well, from side characters in that sense. Of course, Vincent Chavelli, he plays Dr. Kaufman in the film, and he's basically this, he's sent to assassinate Bond. Of course, Carver sends him, and of course he's a professor of forensic medicine, and he's sent to use his expertise to kind of cover up the actual killing of Bond there, the attempted killing, of course. But as we know, Bond makes it out with ease, in that sense, and some hilarious moments there, I feel, and just the exchange there, and the performance as well by Vincent. It's really so charming. This kind of course, this menace, this this threat, of course, but like classic Bond, it was also kind of something that's kind of very charming, and just seeing this kind of a delightful exchange here, even though it's very much a threat to Bond, but it's really just so well balanced, I feel, that scene there, and just a great kind of lead up actually to the kind of succeeding sequence, which is the car park chase. So really great, as we're kind of going through this first half as well, as I've said, really great kind of blend here, great flow to the film. I mean, it goes from intense kind of drama scenes, of course, with so much tension here, to multi-layered, operatic, humorous, of course, but epic action set pieces, and it does this with so much ease that I feel it really is wonderfully directed at times, throughout the first half. So Roger's, Spottiswoode done a great job, overall, I think, actually, and it does definitely does kind of take a a bit of a dip, as I've said, in the kind of second half, but it does recover to a standard where in the end I can actually call this film a great Bond film. Just my opinion, of course, but I really do think so, and just as well, I think Götz, Otto, really gets a great kind of menacing performance as well. As a henchman, of course, Stamper, and he is, of course, well, he has been trained by Dr. Kaufman to kind of in these methods of torture as well. That's a great scene there. Of Elliot Carver, and just the kind of the way in which they describe these torture moments. Of course, we never see anything. No, but it doesn't kind of show this, but we learn enough. It kind of is in the back of our mind, and the kind of showdown, as we know, between Stamper, and Bond in the final act is so kind of on edge, because what this guy's capable of, and as well there's also. Well, there is some deleted scenes which we won't get into, showing even more the brutality, of Stamper, of course, and but despite that, what's in the film here really is enough through the kind of exposition, through the kind of the glances, of course, the way in which this character of Stamper, kind of presents himself, and of course, just the physicality, this brute kind of force of this character is enough. But the scene, of course, where we get a description, of course, of these methods. Of course, is a great scene, and just seeing the kind of escape from Carver there, kind of jumping out the window and all this kind of stuff. This is classic Bond, really, for me, and I think just so thrilling, so comedic as well, and just back and forth, just a seamless kind of blend of this of these traits, of these kind of styles as well. And I think just this film really is overall a great one, and just so much fun. In the first half especially, it's definitely very energetic. Very much a kind of a humorous Bond film at first, but it has this style. It does have the atmosphere as well, and I think really this film for me is definitely one that I'm on the positive side of. I think yes, last time we could kind of disregard that review I gave simply in a bad way, bad mood perhaps. But seeing it once again, just like every other time that I'd seen it, absolutely, it's such a kind of delightful film. There's things I don't like about the film, too much. Things that I think could have been better, and I think things that are definitely better in The World Is Not Enough, in terms of, for example, the character working consistently throughout the film, and the actual the world building perhaps. But I think in this film, regardless of comparisons, I think it is really, really great to kind of see more of MI6 in a particular way, and see Judi Dench as M, once again. She's really, really great, I think, in this film. And again, she's more focused on in The World Is Not Enough, which we'll get to. But regardless, really, really great here. And I think Judi Dench has this kind of chemistry with Brosnan, with Craig as well, which we'll get to. But specifically here, she's really, really, she's such a kind of a charming character. I love Judi Dench as M, and I think she was definitely, she's the best in my eyes. As much as I kind of love most of the M portrayals, especially Bernard Lee as well. I think she really is the one that stands out to me, as the absolute best, by far. And I think once again she adds so much kind of presence to this film. And yes, as I say, the world building of this, and the actual the atmosphere to this, and seeing all these different subtle times and moments, the exchanges between the different characters, it really is something to kind of to get so invested in, and just a delight to kind of see throughout the film. And of course, it does, as I say, it's kind of more focusing on full on with the action in the second half, I guess, but it does come together in the first, in the last act of the film, and seeing, of course, the kind of showdown between, of course, the pathetic, you could say, Carver, that kind of dispatch there is very much, kind of, I think, played for laughs as well, but it really is quite, quite. An interesting moment there, of course. But seeing, of course, the kind of showdown between Stamper and Bond, that's a different story. That's very much, all very much touch and go there, and just so kind of thrilling there, and complex, kind of the shifts of power there, and the stance, of course, of Brosnan throughout the film as well. I must know, is really quite wonderful. He really, Brosnan's Bond, overall really. He had this kind of agile nature. He had this way in which he kind of handled the guns, of course, the weapons. So suave, so cool, of course. And just seeing, of course, him using the guns, and then he kind of throws one out of the way, and then he carries on, in the final act. All these different moments, so great, and just the movement, appears throughout these films. It's so great, especially Goldeneye. He really perfected that kind of the stance, the movement. That's as well in the gun barrel, and we must know the gun barrel to this, for me, is one of the best, one of the very, very best gun barrels. I think it really is. It's perfection, actually. It really, really is perfection, and just to see Brosnan, throughout this entire film, once again, he's on form, physically, and just in terms of his performance elsewhere, of course, just so charming, smooth, likable, kind of cheeky, once again, but not smug, not someone who kind of brings this unlikability to the role. No, he is really such a likable kind of actor, I feel, and really, I always defend Brosnan. I think he really gets a lot of unfair criticism. I think he was a great Bond to me, and I think just once again, this is no exception. This is a real great performance, physically, and just dramatically, and just as well in a comedic way. And at times the chemistry is not perfect for characters, but that's mainly the faults of this film. The few faults I have, nothing too major. It's mainly just I think some of the editing, and some of the kind of the writing, and just the balance. We don't quite get enough of character working, I feel, in the second half. But really, when it comes together in the end, it does satisfy me in terms of the narrative, in terms of seeing how it pans out, of course, for Carver, and his plans, of course. Just seeing in the end this kind of mad villain once again, but seeing you know, villain that's mad with power, you know, in a different way, and his plans are very different, but they're kind of the same, you know, of course, and just seeing, you know, he wants essentially domination. He wants to dominate, you know, the media, of course, and it is essentially, you know, the same kinds of plans of past villains, but just in a different way. You know, his weapons, you know, in that sense, are words, manipulation, of course, as opposed to, you know, other means, for example, using nuclear weapons, you know, in that sense. But yes, just seeing this is actually very, very interesting, very compelling. Jonathan Pryce, yes, really, really good in this film, actually, highly enjoyable, and yes, just makes for you know, really, really interesting villain, and just, you know, he's campy, he's kind of pathetic in the end, his character, but in a good way, you know, in an enjoyable way, and one that I just kind of, you know, I see the final kind of dispatching of this character is quite a funny moment, as well as, of course, you know, quite shocking. But yes, I think the ending scene as well, it's very, very satisfying, and overall, this is a really you know, great film in my opinion. Again, it's a very, very divisive Bond, much like, of course, The World Is Not Enough. But I think, you know, we'll get to what I prefer of these two films. But you know, I think this film, you know, is great in my eyes, and definitely, you know, it's not one of my top kind of top 10 Bond films. It's definitely one of the better Bond films for me personally, and it really has a great sense of atmosphere, you know, style, you know, kind of the romantic aspects, particularly, of course, with you know, Paris, really is quite compelling. You know, definitely very nice to see. So yes, as you can tell, I really love this film personally. You know, I think, yes, it's very divisive, and I'm simply on the positive side. You know, of this one, I really love this film, and you know, I guess once again, yes, the last experience I had of this was just simply a day off, a one-off, you know, kind of an off day in that sense, you know, one where, you know, I guess I wasn't in the best of ways, and you know, that's absolutely fine. I have no problems with admitting that kind of thing. But yes, this time round, again, getting the same experience I got when I was, you know, watching this and loving this film. When I was younger, of course, and yes, this film for me personally is a great Bond film. Yes, it's more focused on the action than The World Is Not Enough. It definitely lacks something, this film, a little bit, you know, in the second half, but overall, despite that, a great Bond entry. It has the style, it has the charm, it has the kind of, you know, the brutality once again, but it has this kind of comedy as well, and I think just really, yeah, especially the first half, is a wonderful blend, and yes, really well directed. Yeah, some great direction by Roger Spottiswoode, and just wonderful, epic score, of course, by David Arnold, and yes, appears once again in his element. You know, it seems, and just a great actor, in my opinion, and I will always defend Pierce Brosnan. You know, he really, for me, he was just another great Bond actor, and yeah, portrayal, of course, and you know, I don't have to you kind of compare him at all. I think he's just, in his own way, he's great, and he brought his own thing to this, of course. Well, you know, staying true in many regards to the, you know, the roots of the character, and just a perfect kind of blend of, you know, this suave, this smooth, you know, elegance, of course, and you know, this kind of raw feeling as well, and just the comedy as well, perhaps, and just, you know, seeing him, you know, in action is just as great as kind of seeing him in dialogue scenes. He really has it all, and in this film, once again, really, as I say, in his element, and you know, I think, yes, his best film for me is GoldenEye by far, but you know, again, not comparing this to that film, I think this is definitely, in its own right, a great Bond film, and I'll give this the same score as I gave two other Bond films, you know, on these re-reviews, and that is a 90%. You know, I think this is great. I think just, you know, really, such an enjoyable film. This it has so much energy. You know, I particularly absolutely adore the first half, but you know, the final act as well is epic. It's, you know, just pumping kind of action, set pieces. Yeah, some really interesting character moments in this film. So compelling, how it's kind of expanding on different things, and also just simply in the way this kind of delightful exchanges. For example, Dr. Kaufman, you know, and Stamper as well. You know, these different side characters, supporting characters, they all have their own kind of moments, you know, as well, to kind of shine, and just seeing Q once again. You know, Desmond Llewelyn. You know, he really is great in this film once again, and unfortunately, the penultimate performance, the appearance. So next up will be, of course, The World Is Not Enough, and that will be his final performance, and it will have a very very much quite a kind of a long discussion on that in the next review, and pay tribute to the wonderful individual, of course, that he was. And yes, we have it all here once again. We have all these different characters. M once again, so great in this film. Judi Dench, wonderful, of course. And yes, this is such a kind of funny film, as well as being very compelling, actually. And Carver has definitely grown on me. I'll say that. This time round, he's definitely grown on me, and I think his plans are actually very interesting. And it's just very, it kind of becomes this kind of over the top, kind of plan in the end, and the way it kind of comes together. I love actually that about the film. I love the kind of the way it goes mad with power, but in a different way, of course. And as I say, his weapons, in this film are words, manipulation, of course. Of course, he kind of he plans to kind of dominate, but just through different methods. It's a very, very interesting spin on things, and it's just Jonathan Pryce. Really, really good in this film. Very enjoyable for me. So yes, it has some slights. There are definitely flaws, particularly in the second half. Not too much in the first half at all. But the second half definitely has some flaws. But despite that, I really love this film, and I think it comes together in a very nice fashion as well, and just the style to this film, the kind of gloss that it has, the kind of sleek feeling that the action has, and just seeing this opening sequence as well in itself, so thrilling, and just hearing that score, wow, David Arnold, so great, and I think this is definitely one of his best Bond scores. So yes, I love the film personally. It'd be great to hear your thoughts. And what do you think of this film? As always, of course, we will maintain the respect, and I love this film personally. Again, other people might not like the film, but it's all kind of it's part of the fun of it. It's kind of great to hear everyone's opinions on these films, and of course, but maintaining the respect, and just yes, the sincere discussions, of course. I don't expect anything less. We always have great discussions. I think I love this film, but I'm not saying that everyone does, of course. I know that it's not a film that's too popular, but I personally will defend this film. I'll defend Brosnan, of course. I'll defend just everything about this film, really, in the sense of just this is a great Bond film for me, and I do love the film. It has some flaws, it has some things that could have been a lot better in the second half, but really overall, it's a film I can't deny. I love. I have so much fun with. It's such a charming film. It's definitely not one of the the best Bond films for me, but it is a very admirable film, and I think it's one of the better Bond films in that sense. One of the best gun barrels in the series, right up there, near the top actually for me, and wonderful score, and once again, great action, and of course a great Bond performance, of course. And these other characters, the interactions, even these very minor characters, you could say, very interesting as well, and so kind of memorable, of course. Dr. Kaufman being one such example, and yes, I love this film. It's definitely a great action film for me, and it's also got some really great interactions, characters, and just of course, a wonderful kind of magical feeling at times. So yes, that's it for now. That's my opinion on this film, and of course I will be back. Have a discussion on The World Is Not Enough. Possibly within a week from this upload kind of date. I guess it could be Sunday, Monday. Who knows when it's uploaded, of course. But yes, within a week from that, I'll have a review probably for The World Is Not Enough. As I said, I've already rewatched that film, so yes, I have some great things to say about that one as well. So yes, I expect a positive review for that one as well. Just my personal opinions, of course. But yes, look forward to hearing your thoughts. And if you've watched this video, of course, thanks so much. And yes. We have more Bond content coming, of course, more discussions on this legendary franchise. I really love Bond, of course, my absolute favourite franchise. So yes, it should be great. We have very soon as well. Wow, a rewatch of Casino Royale. So wow, I'm certainly pumped for that, and it should be great. So yes. Next up, though, is definitely The World Is Not Enough. We'll talk about that. And yes, as always, tell me your thoughts. It'd be so great to hear what you think of this film. How would you compare it to the other Brosnan films and other Bond films, of course? All Bond discussions are welcome, of course. And once again, just cinema, of course. Talking about films, is always so great. So yes, as always, take care. And yes, thanks for watching.